What if I told you that real feelings can be edited like code in a program? A view of the metropolis as if taken from the screen of a science fiction movie. Skyscrapers shine in the sun, seemingly designed for spectacle. Between them are parks with living ecosystems, but each blade of grass, each bee is a product of technology, the result of scientific research. Climate-controlled food blocks and genetically modified plants create the illusion of harmony. But is this harmony worth anything if it is based on a lack of soul? Walking through the green alleys, people smile, exchange phrases, yet emptiness flickers in their eyes. Each of them is part of the algorithm that drives the city's life, scripted in codes but devoid of sincerity. A successful programmer, immersed in the world of innovation, decides to replicate the module of his life, to create a family using technology, wrapped in expectations of happiness predetermined by the sounds of microchips. He forgets that happiness is not just the sum of components. It is the tumultuous interaction of hearts and souls. With each step, with every new modification, he begins to understand. The perfect construct may hide terrible cracks. The joy he anticipated remains just an empty, resonating sound, while his inner world sinks into thoughts about where individuality goes when technology becomes the only truth. In this world of possibilities, he begins to lose himself. Questions about what it truly means to be happy torment him more than any algorithm. Will he be able to escape this trap before he becomes part of the system, forgetting who he was before? Do you know that just one code can change your life? Imagine how difficult it is to sit at a desk in a brightly lit office surrounded by smart and talented programmers, each striving to create something unique and revolutionary. Now picture yourself in Alex's shoes. Alex is an ordinary young man who spends long hours immersed in the world of programming. His hands fly across the keyboard like a well-coordinated orchestra, creating complex algorithms that solve problems that seemed impossible. Every day he faces new challenges, and it seems every project he completes elevates his skill level to unreachable heights. But have you ever wondered what determines a programmer's success? Why do some succeed while others remain in the shadows? What if everything you were taught is not that important? Alex opens a complex code on his screen, the result of many hours of work. Every symbol, every line of code is his dreams, his hopes, his fears. Every time he solves a new algorithmic puzzle, excitement and thrill wash over him. But it's not just about solving the problem. The key is to understand that each algorithm reflects his inner world, his logic and creativity. He knows that in his hands lies not just a code, but a key to the future. And now, among the routine work, a question arises in his mind. What if there are secrets hidden beneath this urban hustle that he doesn't even suspect? Something capable of changing everything. Do you think Alex is ready for this discovery? Do you know what happens to our emotions when we compare ourselves to the ideal images from social media? Alex was sitting at a table in a cozy cafe with friends. They were discussing their recent achievements, and each of them bragged about their perfect families created with the help of technology. Did you hear how my sister ordered herself a child through biotechnology? Max said proudly. She has everything under control now, even the genetic predisposition to diseases. I watched a special program that shows what mistakes couples make, Olya added, clearly inspired by the new knowledge. Now I know exactly how to create the perfect family. My kids will be first in class. Alex listened to them, absorbed in his own thoughts. What does a perfect family mean? Is it defined by genetics and technology or something more? He remembered his younger sister who had long sought support from friends but ultimately found a family in an unexpected place. Can technology really guarantee happiness? Or is it just a mask behind which true life with its joys and sorrows hides? Questions swirled in Alex's mind while his friends continued to share their ideas and dreams. Inside him, confusion and dislike for such a picture began to grow. Perfect families, perfect lives. What do we really want? He sighed in silence, unable to listen any longer. These words hung in the air like a note that had not resolved, and all eyes turned to him, waiting for an answer. What if everything you believed turned out not to be entirely true? Every morning, Alex wakes up hoping for a bright day filled with new opportunities. But each time he faces monotony. A senseless routine, a constant race for success that seems to slip through his fingers. A question brews in his mind. What does it really mean to be happy? He is familiar with the concept of happiness, money, career, success, but with each passing year it becomes clearer that none of this brings fulfillment, only highlights the emptiness. He remembers how 10 years ago he dreamt excitedly of a career in marketing, but now his comparison to the past feels like a vibrant picture against a dull backdrop. Dreams turn into gray days, and his inner voice increasingly whispers, "This is not what you wanted." Alex decides to spend the evening in complete silence, reflecting on what gives his life meaning. He quietly sits, gazing out the window, watching the last light of day fade, and suddenly an outburst of emotions comes to him. He remembers how in childhood simply riding a bike brought genuine happiness. Why has this feeling slipped away? Why does he sacrifice his passions for unclear goals? And once again he asks the question, what if I can change my life right now? He begins to realize that happiness is not an end point but a journey. Can he break this cycle and bring true joy back into his life? Alex decides it's time to act. He is in search of answers that can teach him to understand the meaning of true happiness anew. What if I told you that the dream of a perfect family could become a reality? Imagine you stand before a choice that could change everything. Creating the family you have always dreamed of, with your ideal child. Alex, our hero, increasingly contemplates what that perfect baby should be like. Perhaps it will be a unique genius, a sports champion, or simply the kindest person in the world. But how to achieve such a result? At this moment, his mind fills with thoughts of genetic modifications. Alex seeks an answer to a question that many ignore. How can technology help in creating the perfect offspring? In his opinion, the time has come to take advantage of all the advancements in science. At first, it seems to him just a fantastical idea, but every time he sees happy families around, his desires grow stronger. Examples from life come to mind. He recalls his friend who struggled with parenting responsibilities and how his children did not meet expectations. Yet everything could have been different if he had the opportunity to change something in their genes. By comparing, Alex gradually realizes there are numerous questions and opportunities that people are hesitant to discuss. Every morning, looking in the mirror, he sees that time is relentlessly passing, and the time to start a family is approaching. And he has a chance to change not just his fate, but the fate of his future child. But what consequences await him with this choice? Could this attempt to become the perfect father turn into a technological nightmare? Does he have the right to interfere with nature to create a new person? A conflict is brewing within him, and resolving this question will become a pivotal moment in his life. Alex embarks on his journey towards an extraordinary experiment that will challenge all his previous notions of life and family. This is just the beginning. Are you ready to learn how your future child can become a unique work of art? Imagine, in a world where every moment shapes your destiny, genetics is a palette, and you are the artist. Alex stands before multiple screens where bright graphics and diagrams flash. He immerses himself in the mysterious process of creating genetic combinations. Every color, every stroke, these are not just numbers. They are life stories, dreams, and hopes. He watches as the DNA of two individuals meets, passion, intelligence, emotions, all blending in a perfect alloy. What future to expect? What characteristics will his child inherit? His heart races with excitement. This is not just science, it's calculations of expectations and hopes like playing the stock market. Perhaps he is creating a star or a genius. Alex realizes that each combination is a chance, a choice, a dream. He wonders, can they create the perfect person? Or will every ideal always have its flaws? He decides to take the risk. Behind him is the entire history of humanity. Behind the formulas are the destinies of millions, and now streams of data appear on the screen capable of sending chills down his spine. Each line leads to a new life, to a new meaning. Alex imagines holding his child in his arms and goosebumps run over him. He feels that this is more than just science. This is a process that shapes the future. And just beyond the laboratory, a world full of possibilities unfolds. Alex realizes that playing with genes is not just about science. It's about love, dreams, and hopes. Building a family means embracing all the risks and joys they bring. What will their child be like? That is yet to be discovered, but for now, an exciting journey awaits them. There are no guarantees in this process, only pure excitement for what lies ahead. What if I told you that you could create the perfect child? Alex stands by the window, hand on the glass, his gaze fixed in the distance. His heart beats in unison with anxious thoughts. He still can't believe this is happening. Modifications, genes, processed algorithms. It all sounds like something out of science fiction. But here he is, ready to embrace what will become his life. Amid the sounds of the approaching nurse, he remembers the long hours spent studying, how he wanted to learn to create, as if it were a new form of art. Perfect. Ideal. For him, these words now take on a new meaning. In his anticipation, fear and joy intertwine. A baby with perfect enhancements. What does this mean for their family? The door opens, and the nurse enters the room holding a small bundle. Your baby, she says, smiling at Alex. A wave of emotions rises in his heart, joy, tenderness, but also anxiety. What if the ideal does not meet expectations? As she hands him the baby, the world around him stands still. Alex gently cradles the little being. Emotions overwhelm him. Instantly, the feeling that he has become part of something incredible engulfs him. The baby's gaze is full of wisdom, as if it knows everything. Hello, little one, he whispers, his thin lips barely holding back tears. He thinks about the future, about what this path will be like. What will he say to his child when they understand they were created differently from everyone else? How to explain that behind their perfect appearance lies not only science, but also love? The baby stirs, reaching for his face, and in that moment Alex realizes even a perfect child carries the complexity of choice and responsibility. He decides that even with modifications, what matters most is love and support. It is not genes that define the future, but the world they will create together. Alex holds the baby close, a new hope born in his soul. This moment will change him forever. With each breath, he feels that he now has not only the perfect child, but an unbreakable bond that will grow stronger each day. Sometimes the fears seem too loud, but in the embrace of life, there is always room for love. What if I told you that being a parent is not just joy, but also deep loneliness? Alex sits in silence, where each breath feels like an echo of loss. In his hands is a diaper, but inside him turmoil rages. He feels an invisible wall growing between him and his newborn baby. Each day becomes a routine where one worry replaces another, and the heartfelt connection with the child fades into the background. He remembers how filled with hope his expectations were after the birth, laughter, joy of first steps, bright moments. But instead, the novelty turns into a hamster wheel, and his inner world fills with a sense of uncertainty. Looking at the silent face of the child, he asks himself, "Where is the laughter I long to hear?" Alex recalls how his eyes used to light up at every little thing, the first smile, the first word. Now, though, they are weighed down by the burden of responsibilities, and he begins to doubt his feelings. Something important slips away, and he can't understand why it is so easy to love children, yet so difficult to love himself. He feels emotions surge like waves, becoming stronger each time. Between them is an invisible barrier which only intensifies the tension. What if he is not who he is supposed to be? Images of the perfect parent flicker in his mind as he withdraws further into himself, losing touch with what truly matters. And what if time does not heal but merely hides fears beneath layers of life's expectations? He asks himself, how do I establish this connection? How do I overcome my fear and finally communicate with someone who has become a part of me? Each day he struggles with the shadow of his own expectations, and deep down he is tormented by the thought, what if I remain in this emptiness forever? This moment is not just a crisis, but the beginning of a journey toward understanding, toward true closeness. Alex is not alone. This is a shared story experienced by many. What will happen next if he decides to open his heart and begin communication with someone who needs him the most? What if I told you that love is not always what you imagine? Many dream of a romantic ideal that true love will happen like in the movies, with passionate kisses to the sounds of gentle music and in the light of a sunset. But what if behind these dreams lies a much more complex and tangled reality? Inside each of us lives a notion of what love should be, and sometimes in striving for that ideal we forget that love is not always just beauty but also work, sacrifices, compromises. It can be rough, imperfect, but it is precisely in that imperfection that its true essence lies. Imagine this: two people who seemingly are absolutely incompatible. They argue, do not understand why different things matter to each other. But at some point they begin to realize, true love is not about becoming perfect for each other, but about learning to accept each other with all their flaws. It's almost like a dance, where it's important to learn to feel your partner's rhythm, yielding and supporting them. But how can you recognize if this is really love? Or is it just a desire for an ideal? Sometimes we spend years trying to meet the one. We attach importance to external attributes like whether our partner's lifestyle, appearance, hobbies, and even social circle suit us. But sometimes true love ripens in the most unexpected places, even among those who do not fit our notions of perfection. This struggle for an ideal can distract us from something more important. It is not only important to love, but also to be loved just as we are. This acceptance is the key to true love. Isn't it important not only to give, but also to receive? Isn't that where our strength lies? So perhaps it's worth looking not at the ideal, but at reality, seeking not perfection, but simple human warmth. And then you will understand that to love means to be genuine and open, unafraid to show your weaknesses. After all, in the end, love is not a perfect plot, but a real story with its twists and surprises. What if everything we see around us is just the surface? Alex sits on a bench in the park, his gaze gliding over his friends who are laughing and enjoying life. They share their successes, show each other photos from vacations, discuss trips and achievements. He feels a wave of envy rising within him. Why do they succeed while he does not? His heart sinks at the thought that he may not be as happy as they are. It's as if his friends' joy are scales that constantly point out his shortcomings. He remembers how they once dreamed together of achieving success, and now he is standing still while they confidently move forward. Did he make the wrong choices? A nearly palpable sadness engulfs him as he thinks that he may never achieve what his friends have. At that moment, he catches himself thinking, they probably don't see all my struggles. Maybe they have moments of doubt that I don't notice? This question hangs in the air. Alex wonders if there is really a perfect life or if happiness is just a mirage that we all strive for. He tries to feel better, to recall his small victories, but each new success feels too trivial compared to their achievements. It makes him compare himself to them again, as if there is some invisible happiness ranking where he is always last. Alex stands up from the bench but still cannot tear his eyes away from his friends. He realizes that perhaps it's time to stop this comparison and wonder if there is a chance to view his achievements differently. But how to begin when it seems everyone around is living a true dream while he is merely an observer? What if one day you wake up and realize you don't know who you've really become? Alex sat in the kitchen staring at his coffee cup as if it held the entire truth about his life. He seemed foreign to himself. Friends always said he was the life of the party, but now he couldn't remember the last time he laughed enough to feel it inside. Family, work, responsibility. Everything had become pieces of a mosaic. Yet somehow they didn't fit together into a picture. He was constantly searching for the old him, the Alex who wasn't afraid of adventures, who sought pleasures and emotional experiences. Instead, in front of him stood the image of a father, a husband, a man with a list of duties. But where was the rebellious ideal who sought freedom? All around there were conversations about how to be a better father, how to take care of a child. But in the moment he held his newborn in his arms, he was engulfed by emptiness. How could he be who he was supposed to be if he didn't know who he really was? He couldn't just take and forget his dreams, all those paths he hadn't taken. Fear began to fill every thought and gradually turned into panic. He remembered once while walking in the park, he stopped at a mirror. A smile full of life was on his face. Now it seemed that only the echo of that moment remained. What is happening to his life? And does he not have the chance to find the lost parts of himself, even if it requires facing all his fears? Alex closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Perhaps this was the opportunity, a chance to rethink, redefine his life, and possibly reshape his dreams so that they would shine in bright colors again. What price is he willing to pay to find himself? Are you ready to discover the truth about how your life works? Sometimes we get stuck in our own experiences, and it seems that no one knows the answers. Alex understood this when yet another anxious day became his constant companion. Every evening he sat lost in thought, surrounded by silence that only highlighted his inner struggle. He often asked himself, what truly drives me? A sense of being lost enveloped him, and until he confronted philosophy, Alex couldn't see the truth behind his suffering. One day, he came across the words of Socrates. The unexamined life is not worth living. These words struck like lightning in his mind. Thus began his journey toward self-discovery. He explored the ideas of the Stoics, who taught acceptance of hardships as part of life. Alex delved into the history of human thought, reading about how ancient sages sought meaning in suffering. He found solace in the works of Epictetus, who asserted that it is not what happens to us, but how we react to it that matters. He spent whole days in the library pondering every letter. The pages filled with his notes and questions. Were his fears the result of unfounded anxiety or harbingers of change? Alex saw philosophy not only as theoretical pursuits but also as a practical guide that sparked hope and understanding within him. One day, while reading about the concept of a dual mind in Buddhism, he wondered, is life simply a series of contrasts, and are the insoluble conflicts we encounter the key to true understanding? These thoughts crowded his mind, and at the moment he wrote them down, he began to realize that not all answers would be concrete. Perhaps the very process of seeking was already an answer. Thus, through philosophical reflection and the pursuit of understanding, Alex embarked on a path of change. This was only the beginning of his journey, a quest for meaning in a world full of contradictions and unexpected revelations. And perhaps he would stop feeling lost, repulsed by his inner demons that had once toxically consumed his life. Only forward toward new knowledge, toward the opportunity to open his heart and mind to the unknown. What if I told you that your closest person is not just a biological child, but a product of a scientific experiment? Alex sits in the silence of his room, involuntarily recalling how long he had dreamed of having children. Happy moments, sparkling smiles, first steps, everything seemed real to him. But now, looking at the toys scattered on the floor, he begins to realize that all this joy may be nothing more than an illusion. His child, a gift of fate, is actually the result of a cold scientific laboratory. Gripping a rough toy car in his hands, he feels a chill of disappointment seep into his heart. Have all those years spent together been just part of some experiment? He remembers how proud he was when he first saw the baby starting to talk, how he learned to laugh and rejoice alongside him. All those emotions now seem to him to be a deception. The child is not a person, but a set of programs and algorithms. What if he is just living in a world created by scientists where there is no true love, no genuine desires? Alex realizes that behind every laugh of his son lies not true joy, but a pre-written program. Every breath is a result of calculation, not a real human feeling. What is real in him if all this is nothing more than a projection of someone's scientific fantasies? He reflects, trying to cope with the overwhelming emotions. He is suffocating from this thought which has made the world he lived in seem empty. Alex begins to search for the answer to the question of what it means to be real, or at least what it means to be a real parent to a creation in which he sees no individuality. Until he finds the answer, his heart will be breaking apart, losing hope and the meaning of existence in this cold, scientific world. Are you ready to learn the truth about how easy it is to lose everything? Alex sat on the couch in a dark room where a beam of light filtered through the curtains, creating an atmosphere of alienation. He knew that his son, who once played nearby, had now become a ghost in this house. Every evening, returning home from work, he felt the walls around him growing thicker, as if they were absorbing all the warmth and joy. At first, everything was fine. The smiling toddler who eagerly awaited his father now merely gazed blankly out the window when he came in. Alex increasingly forgot about meetings with friends and family dinners, immersing himself in work as a lifeboat. Why can't I just distract myself, he thought, diving into virtual worlds to fill the void. Meanwhile, his phone was silent, as if both friends and family had forgotten about his existence. He didn't notice how days flew by, turning into weeks, and the grim realization that for others it would always be a celebration only added to his pain. Every time he looked at photos of shared moments of happiness, his heart tightened with guilt, as if every child's laughter echoed in his head, reminding him of what he had lost. He didn't know how to break free from this vicious circle. Every evening he retreated into his own world and felt neither joy nor closeness. What remains of us when we stop being part of each other? spun in his mind again and again like an unending mantra. Alex understood that without battling himself there would be no resurrection. But what to do when even simple words seemed too hard to utter? His world shrank, disappearing into black and white chaos. Friends sent messages, but he only replied to those that didn't require deep involvement. Family tried to call, and each missed call resonated in his heart with emptiness. Soon he realized he had locked himself in his misunderstanding, condemning himself to solitude like a silent punishment. Alex looked out the window again. Behind him there were children's voices, laughter, the joy of play. While he himself was engulfed in the darkness of emptiness, someone else was enjoying life. And only when he finally realized that he was losing not only his child but also himself, a faint light of hope ignited in his mind. That the only way to salvation lay through the courage to acknowledge his mistakes. What if I told you that true strength is not in the office but in nature? Alex, having lost connection with himself amidst the urban hustle, realizes that every day spent in concrete jungles takes him further from his true nature. One day, under overcast skies, he decides it's time for a change. He aimlessly wanders through a park where his attention is drawn to a lone birch tree majestically spreading its branches. As soon as he touches its bark, a crack seems to echo in his mind, sharpening all his perceptions. Birds sing as if telling forgotten stories, and the leaves whisper as if sharing ancient secrets. Alex sits at the base of the tree, closes his eyes, and begins to breathe deeper. In that moment, he remembers that it was here, among the greenery, that he once felt whole. Slowly, word by word, he starts to realize how much energy, invisible and soft, surrounds him. Nature is not just a backdrop, it's real life. He opens his eyes and understands that all the hustle, stress, and pressure are merely shadows hiding the very organic essence of his being. Gradually, he begins to let go of his fears and doubts, allowing nature to take them. Each breath becomes lighter, and each exhale is a true release. A transformation occurs within him. He feels his heart begin to beat in unison with the world around him. He hears the winds merging into one symphony and realizes that true life is not a race, but a dance. Alex leaves the park not merely renewed, but reborn. Nature, with its powerful energy and mysteries, has become his ally. He now knows that sometimes to find oneself, one just needs to stop and let the world around speak. Every minute spent with trees, every drop of rain, every trill of a bird. These are keys to understanding his place in this vast universe. Are you ready to discover the truth about what happens in our consciousness? Alex stands at a crossroads, and the world around him, filled with glossy storefronts and bright lights, screams that public opinion matters. But looking deeper, he begins to feel how this shiny facade actually hides emptiness. Doubts from within, like whispers, do not let him be at peace. What is truly important to me? A life full of fake smiles and soul pain, or a sincere existence where I can be myself? He feels this struggle tearing him apart inside. Alex recalls the story of his childhood when, running down the street with friends, he was unaware of the worries of adult life. Every laugh was genuine. Every moment was priceless. He looks at societal demands and its view on success, a 9-to-5 job, a race for money, recognition. And what will I get in the end? He quietly asks himself, looking in the mirror. Now he faces a choice: to continue following imposed standards or to break the chains and return to his truth. His heart beats in sync with his thoughts, and suddenly the world around him seems not as bright as it once was. He realizes that true freedom is not about money or status, but about who he truly is. Boldly looking towards the future, he understands there is nothing more valuable than a life based on his own values and desires. This is his moment. This choice will mark the beginning of a new chapter, where he wants to be not an ideal, but a person who knows his worth. What if I choose myself? Echoes in his mind, and the answer comes with clarity. That is exactly how it should be. What will happen if you stop limiting yourself? Alex paused and looked around. He felt every cell in his body fill with lightness. No more masks, no more illusions, just him and the world around him. Liberation from imposed stereotypes became a gift he could finally accept. He recalled all those moments when doubt tormented him, when he tried to fit into the boundaries set by others. Each one felt like a stone in his pocket, heavy and unnecessary. Alex took a deep breath, feeling all of it fade away, dissolving into the air. Outside the sun shone, its rays gently brushing his face as if greeting his new essence. A smile blossomed on his lips as he realized that all he really needed was to be himself. He remembered the amazing moment when he first felt he could talk to the trees, listen to the whisper of the waves, and dance with the wind. This world had always been there, but it seemed he had forgotten about its presence. Alex closed his eyes and immersed himself in silence. Every thought he had considered true was now turning to dust. He saw familiar images, the laughter of friends, the excitement of the unknown, the joy of simple things. All these feelings intertwined, creating a harmony that lingered around him. Sometimes to find oneself, one just needs to let go. Let go of fears, let go of expectations. He felt his heart beating in sync with the surrounding world. Heartbeats, scents, sounds, all of this together created a melody of life. Alex opened his eyes and a mocking ray of sunshine embraced him. He knew that true harmony does not depend on the opinions of others, but only on the inner world. By accepting himself as he was, he found a freedom that made his life truly vibrant. He took a step forward, knowing that ahead lay an infinite number of possibilities. Every day became a new beginning, and he was the master of his path. No more limitations, just real life and genuine joy.